What is going on, guys? Welcome to the video. It's totally T-Man here, and today I'll be talking about my 10 playoff contenders going into week 10. Now, it's going to be a big week of college football and playoff implications because Alabama's playing LSU, Washington's playing USC, Georgia's playing Missouri. You got some really good games this weekend. But how I'm going to rank these playoff contenders is I have 10 playoff contenders, and at the bottom of the list will be the teams that are least likely to make the playoffs. I'll talk about them first. And at the top of the list, you have the Georgias, the Michigans. They will be the most likely to make the playoffs. So I'll talk about them at the end of the video. So starting off, at the bottom of the list, Penn State. They are my number 10 playoff contender. I don't really see Penn State making the playoffs. They're on the verge of being out of the playoff contention in my eyes. But I had to rank them on here because they are 7-1. And they do have a shot at Michigan, and if they can somehow beat Michigan and win out, there's a chance. But their offense sucks. Their defense is really good, though, but nothing much to say about this team. They can't compete with the best, but if somehow they beat Michigan and win out, they do have a shot at making it. But they're very close of being off this list. At number 9, I got Oklahoma. Now, I don't see Oklahoma with a high chance of making the playoffs anymore, but they also still have a chance to win out. And beating Texas twice might be good enough to get them in. Just depends on what other teams do. But the last couple of weeks, Oklahoma hasn't looked like the same dominant team on both sides of the ball like they were near the start of the season. They looked like a very complete team at the start of the season. Pretty sure they're a top 10 in both offense and defense in numbers and points per game. But it's a different story now after that loss to Kansas and how they played against UCF. They got a tough game coming up against Oklahoma State at Oklahoma State this weekend, and I won't be surprised if they lose that game. Oklahoma State has looked like a very improved team, and you got to give props to Oklahoma State. They've done really well this year, and they have a shot at Oklahoma. My 8th playoff contender, I got Alabama. I really do think Alabama has a chance to shock a lot of people. They look like a scary team, and Alabama is a couple games away from being 11-1, and not only that, having a shot at Georgia for a chance at making the playoffs. Georgia has showed some weaknesses in their game, and I could see Alabama winning that matchup, being Nick Saban will have his players ready to play in that game. It will be a heck of a game and a battle. And don't be surprised if Alabama gets back in the playoffs. Their only loss being to Texas at the start of the season. They are improving every week, and they're proving a lot of people wrong. On to my 7th playoff contender, I got Texas. Texas has looked like a really good football team, and they only have one loss to Oklahoma, who is also on my list. But Texas also has one of the best wins of the season against Alabama, and their defense has been playing really good. They got only a couple more games left, not like super tough games. I mean, they do have Kansas State, they'll have to play at Iowa State, but they're all winnable. They're going to be favorites in those games. So Texas, they definitely have a shot to make it back in, and if they get that rematch against Oklahoma, they probably will win that, because it is hard to beat a team twice. So look out for Texas and making some noise in the playoff picture. For my 6th playoff contender, I got Washington. This team doesn't look like a playoff contender right now, to be honest. But they still are 8-0 and have looked really good all year, despite their 2 terrible games against Arizona State and Stanford. They still have a couple weeks to figure stuff out, but they really need to figure stuff out this weekend if they want to beat USC. Because USC, I know they're not living up to their expectations, but their offense is really good. And with the way Washington's been playing, USC can definitely win that game. So Washington really needs to figure some stuff out and play like they were at the start of the year. It's not good that you're falling apart at the start of the year. You should get your bad games out of the way at the beginning of the year and play better near the end of the year. Those are where the best teams strive, is at the end of the year, and Washington does not look like one of the better teams in college football. At number 5 for my playoff contenders, I got Oregon. This team has looked really dominant, and I have them above Washington because of how better they have looked on both sides of the ball. Despite that loss to Washington, a neutral site game, I'm almost certain Oregon wins that in a rematch. And they have a big shot at winning out. They look like a very complete team. And don't be surprised if Oregon gets in and makes noise, just like Texas. Oregon and Texas are 2 teams who could definitely get in the playoffs and shock a lot of people. Same with Alabama. But Oregon, there's something different with this team. Oregon looks very complete. Dan Lanning has something different with that team. He's got a fire under that team. That team is playing defense. Oregon never plays defense. They're a Pac-12 team. Most Pac-12 teams don't play defense. But Pac-12 is a little different this year. And Oregon, they're a complete team. And they have a shot at winning it all. They look like one of the most complete teams in college football. Don't be surprised if they win it all. For the 4th playoff contender, I got Ohio State. I don't have them higher because their offense hasn't looked the greatest, and they'll probably lose to Michigan, and they probably won't make the Big Ten championship game. But Ohio State is still a real contender, and they do have a great resume. Now, Ryan Day, he might want that game really bad against Michigan. Maybe they come out and play their absolute best game, because like they've been losing to Michigan the last couple years. Ohio State might have a fire under them, and Michigan hasn't really played anybody all year, but I just don't see it. Ohio State's offense has looked very bad. If they can get a run game going, maybe. Their run game's starting to get going, but they really lack on the offensive side, just like Penn State. Michigan looks more like a complete team. Don't get me wrong, they haven't played anybody, and this list might change in a couple weeks after they play Penn State. Just seeing how good Michigan plays against Penn State, we'll have to wait and see. But on to my next playoff contender, I got Florida State. I'm ranking Florida State above Ohio State, just because their schedule isn't as tough the rest of the season. And Ohio State will probably lose to Michigan, like I said, because their offense isn't that good. But Florida State has looked like a pretty good team. I'm still really not sure about this team, because they've had some questionable games this season, then they look really good. There's so many question marks on this team. This is one team that I'm still I don't know a lot about. At number 2, I got Michigan. I would rank Michigan at number 1 if they still didn't have to play Ohio State and Penn State. But they are definitely a top playoff contender and look like possibly the most complete team in college football. Right now, looking at it, the 3 most complete teams in college football to me look like Michigan, Georgia, and Oregon. And Florida State, I'm kind of looking at them, but I'm not sure about this team. I need to do more research on their stats and stuff. I really need to look into Florida State because, I've watched them. They haven't surprised me much. They really haven't. But right now, if I'm looking at it on offense and defense and even special teams, the most complete teams look like Michigan, Georgia, Oregon. So Michigan is my number 2 playoff contender, and everybody knows who number 1 is going to be. I have Georgia as my number 1 playoff contender. They still have 3 tough tests against Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Missouri, and they could possibly lose one of those. Having the same treatment Notre Dame had, playing those 4 tough games back to back to back to back. Georgia has back to back to back games, so I could see them losing one because that's a brutal slate. They're not guaranteed to win those games. They could easily drop one of those games. But even if they lose a game, I still think they have a shot at making the playoffs. I mean, it is the SEC, and they always get 1-loss teams in, even if they have a loss. They definitely aren't a lock for the college football playoffs, but they are on the top of my list because they are one of the best teams in college football, and they are back-to-back national champions. I know you can't really go off of last year, but that's kind of what I'm doing, I guess. But I don't have them ranked number 1, but I do have them number 1 for my playoff contenders. That's going to do it for the video. If you like my content, subscribe to the channel and like the video, and comment your input down below. I want to hear what you guys have to say about my content. And also, I created a Discord server a couple days ago, so if you guys want to join it, the link's in the description. We could talk about football. I talk about football in the Discord server. We can really talk about anything in the Discord server. I like having a community, so I created a Discord server, and if you guys want to join, the link is in the description below. And that's going to do it for the video, so hope you guys have a good day, and peace out.